Hello, everybody, and welcome to another really fun episode of On the Margins. My name is Sarah Barnes-Humphrey of Let's Talk Supply Chain. Here with me today as my co-host and partner in action, MBK. How you doing?
What's up? I'm excited. Here we go again.
And
I just want to say for the record, always excited. If people are wondering what the heck is he wearing today, it's my Formula One shirt for Mercedes-Benz. F1 is upon us, and I am thrilled and cannot wait for another fun season.
hey, we've always got to represent, our passions and what's going on because it's not all work around here, right, MBK?
No way. Hey, work hard and play hard. I just came back from 12 days of Vegas, so I know all about work hard and of course also go to the club, and the rest stays in Vegas. But it was sure.
Well, and you're still able to be with us today. I love it. Well, we've got a really cool show coming up. I want to know where you're all tuning in from, so make sure you put it in the comments. I'm sure you're going to have a ton of questions because Amanda Prochaska is joining us today about solving the problem of change adoption, which I think everybody kind of struggles with, and she's going to give us some incredible insights. So make sure to get out your pen and paper because we've got lots and lots to talk about. Now, let's sort of kick things off and find out where in the world you are. You said you just came from Vegas. Where are you today, and where are you going next? Is it next week?
Yes. Yeah, no, the week after. So I'm actually in the south of Portugal at home. So it's nice to be here for a little while and enjoy the sun. And be in my own home office. And then I'll be going to Miami, Florida to enjoy the American Procurement Congress there. And then later in the month, I'll be at the Sourcing Industry Group in Nashville. And in between, I'll go to Amsterdam to do a customer event. So yeah, lots of exciting stuff happening in the next few weeks, but enjoying the home front for a little while with the 3 kids.
You are always on the move. And I can't believe we were just talking about this. We were both at Manifest. Was it just last week? I don't even know when that was, but we were both at Manifest, didn't even see each other. It was kind of a whirlwind. We just sort of passed each other through the night. But talk to me about what was top of mind for everybody that you got to connect with at Manifest for those 12 days in Vegas.
Yeah, I think a lot of people were talking about the importance of procurement and supply chain connecting together, bringing the connected tissue. I saw Susan there with AT&T, and she was talking about connected tissue. Like, how do we break down all these silos, no longer think about demand management not being a procurement problem, us maybe more focused on the sourcing and the contracting, and then leaving the rest up to finance. And I mean, everyone talked about breaking down silos. Of course, we talked about, the current administration, also globally talk about trade, where are things going? There's still a lot of disruption, lots of uncertainty. So everyone is really focused on their own 4 walls. But I think the key takeaway for me was everyone wants to collaborate with each other and everyone wants to learn from each other. And I had great conversation. I had conversation with a lot of VCs that are investing in the space. Super exciting, and some really cool people that I met there. I also talked to a lot of our customers that were there. I went to the UPS booth, I went to DHL, and I went to others, and it was just it was mostly supply chain. I'm a procurement person, right? But there were lots of supply chain people there, but a lot of them talked about the importance of removing all the silos, thinking about global trade, thinking about optionality in your supply chain, digital twin. We talked a lot about digital twinning. It was a great event. I had a blast. I'd never been there. It was massive. It's the size of Inspire, and so it was a good time, but it's always an energy drain.
Oh, absolutely. Now, you talk about collaboration. I do have a question about collaboration. What about data sharing? Has that been coming up in conversation when we're talking about collaboration? Because that's been coming up more and more in conversations that I've had where I've been talking about collaboration. It's kind of like, data sharing is at the core of that collaboration. I think people are still, unsure about.
And of course we talked about AI, and we said, well, AI sounds fun, but AI is partially also about go Ferrari. I'm a Hamilton fan, so I probably say go Ferrari as well, but I'm on the I'm struggling anyway. Different conversation. Sorry, I saw it in the screen. Yeah, it's about data, right? And it's about how can you trust AI? And in order for, we at Coupa always say the best AI is made by the best data. And so permission-based data is what we call it, what we have with all of our customers with the $7 trillion worth of spend. That's a big deal. That's a
Mhm.
really, our customers are sharing their data with the community, and we have permission-based data access, $7 trillion, 10 million suppliers, 3,500 customers. And that is really, really critical. And there were lots of conversations around what you just said, Sarah. It's like data sharing, collaborating, being more transparent, being more open book. That is still a little bit uncomfortable for people. And
Yeah.
I think we have some unique propositions in the platform that we do now for 19 years. We celebrated our 19th anniversary recently, and that really resonated very, very well with the people that were there. Yeah, it's a
Yeah,
great.
yeah. And I can't wait to talk a little bit more about it. It's such an important topic. But you also talked about investment. I just mentioned on my show yesterday, AI is a $4.4 trillion industry over the next 3 years, which is a ton of money. I think that's one of the biggest dollar amounts that we've put towards a technology. Correct me if I'm wrong. Maybe I am wrong. But, anyways, let's talk about the topic that we are talking about today. Now, it's change adoption, right? The definition of that is that change adoption is the process of integrating new ideas or systems into an organization. It involves employees accepting and using new processes, behaviors, and/or systems. Now, MVK, do you have a story that you can share about organizational change that maybe you've led? You don't need to get super into the weeds, but maybe just share an overarching sense of what went well, how did it go, maybe something that went wrong.
Yeah, people know where I've worked in the past, and you can look it up on LinkedIn. So, I've been in retail for a long time, and especially when I was at VF, we had all of these brands, and what we were trying to do was to run a global procurement transformation where we kind of said the power of one VF, right? And what was hard for the brands was to give up their autonomy.
Mm,
You had North Face and Timberland and all these fabulous brands, and I think VF is a fabulous company, and I've learned a ton and super grateful to have been part of the journey. But the challenge we had there is how can we provide a compelling case to adopt the global thinking without the brands having the idea that we were going to tell them how to run their business, because
right.
that doesn't work, right? And so we had to. So the way to do it, it sounds pretty basic, is to demonstrate to each and every brand what's in it for them. Why would they care? And what's in it for them could be better quality, more value, less risk, business continuity, maybe create more budget. We said we're going to generate X amount of savings, and we will reinvest it back into the brand. And that allows you to maybe have more marketing dollars or better omni-channel experience. That's what we did at Lulu. We took out a bunch of money, and it allowed us to drive our omni-channel strategy. Now, had I just come in and said, I'm here to cut your budget, that's not going to work. But if you come in there and say, hey, I am actually here to accelerate your objectives, that's how you drive change, to
Mm,
really demonstrate to the other side of the desk, hey, I'm not here to tell you what to do. I'm actually here to amplify you. I'm here to accelerate your objectives. And we're in this thing together. And together we're actually going to make this company more successful,
I
maybe
love that.
faster acceleration in your objectives that you're trying to achieve, more shareholder value, whatever it is. That is the message that I know for a fact in my past has resonated really, really well. And yeah, you can of course go and ask the people that I worked with if that actually was successful. But I think it was fairly successful by just really opening up the door, and we're going to have an expert on the call. So I think we should just bring her in.
Well, yeah,
Uh,
I think that that's such a great example and such a great transition to bring up Amanda. Amanda, welcome to On the Margins. How you doing? Tell everybody who you are, what you do.
Sure. I mean, thanks for having me, by the way. I was over here getting all giddy in the green room listening to you guys talk about the topic, but happy to be here. I am the Chief Wonder Officer of Wonder Services. So spent 16 years in procurement before I started Wonder. And I just happened to wonder if there was a better way to manage change adoption. And that's what we're doing at Wonder Services, is that we're trying to solve that problem of change adoption, because it's so difficult. You're talking about thousands of users with individual responses. It's not an easy thing to do.
Absolutely. And something that I've said more recently is that digital transformation is only 20% technology, and the rest is change adoption, change management, however you want to slice and dice it. It's kind of the same thing, but it's all about people, culture. It's how we view things, perspective, innovation, how we bring thoughts to the table. Now, before we get to our first question, I do want to give a shout out to Petra and Juan over on the Coupa live stream, just to say hi and thank you so much for joining us. Now, I think MVK, over to you, because I think you've got a pretty interesting question for Amanda.
Yeah, I mean, first of all, Amanda, it's great to see you. I think we've known each other probably for a decade at this point. I still vividly remember meeting you when you were at the MGM with Stacy, and I know all the great work you've done there. And so I just want to recognize how long we've known each other. So if this feels very friendly to the audience, it's because we go back in time, but it's great to have you. Let's get into it. So I think the first thing that definitely I'm interested in, and I kind of have an idea, but I'm sure the audience is, what was a turning point, a key turning point in your career that made you want to focus on transformation and change management?
Okay, so transformation and change management was throughout my career. And that's something that I loved about procurement, is that we got to touch so much within organizations and we were evolving constantly. So whether it was insourcing or outsourcing, or I had the opportunity of opening new properties at MGM, implementing technology, change was just all around us all the time. But what really launched me into Wonder Services was that I saw people struggling with it. We were making investments in procurement, and then I was hearing from people like, hey, the technology is amazing, but we're having troubles with X, Y, and Z. Or, hey, we just merged two organizations together and they're just not working well together. I even had one company that I walked into and they pointed across the street and they said, those people over there are AP. And I was like, those people over there, like, don't you work closely? And this was a procurement organization. And they're like, no, we don't. They're just over there. And I was like, okay, we got to change some stuff in procurement. So I saw white space. I saw a need, and I jumped 2 feet in at Wonder Services about 6 years ago now.
So I think that that's such a great story, and it kind of goes to how we work in silos by pointing fingers, right, for blame.
Yes. Yep.
Those people that work across the street, I mean, that can't get any more true to silos that we've sort of traditionally been in, especially in supply chain and procurement. But what, in your experience, are some of the most important elements or maybe even ingredients to driving a successful digital transformation? I mentioned 20%, it's only 20% that's technology. What is the rest of it? What's that successful formula that you can give us?
Okay, so I can talk about this for hours. So I'm going to try to keep it very short and brief for everyone listening today. We've come up with 8 different factors that go into change adoption. And I want to list out all 8 because all 8 are important to consider as you're moving through this. And Sarah, you're absolutely right. Tech is one of them, but it's one of 8, right? I don't know if that math works to your 20%, but it's close enough for today. So first off, we always hear people, process, technology, right? Some consultant way back when probably brought that up, and now it's like part of our language, people, process, and technology. But we like to say people, as in, do they have the right skill sets to do the new job? Okay, we often forget that. Coupa automates all kinds of stuff in the procurement process, but what do those people do if their work is automated? Do they have the right skill? Okay. Process is pretty straightforward. Policy is the other P. We don't like to talk about policy often, but policy can drive behaviors or not drive behaviors. It depends on your culture, but it's something to consider. We already mentioned tech. The other 4 are metrics. How are we measuring the success of our people? Do those need to shift because of what we're doing in this deployment? And we often overlook that. It's an incentive. I studied economics in school. Economics is all about human behavior, believe it or not. And incentives drive human behavior so often. So we need to think about the metrics that we're measuring, the data. MVK, I bet you have all kinds of stories about data, right? Like if we don't have what are we doing this for if we don't have data, right? If we need data, it's not going to be perfect data, but what are we going to either ingest into these systems or output from these systems to be more successful? Sarah, I don't know if you knew this, but you mentioned culture. People overlook culture all the time.
They do? How?
All the time. All the time. You can talk all you want and talk about what's in it for you. But MVK, you mentioned the cultural divide, like in those different business units. That is so hard to overcome if you don't understand the cultures. How are you going to change the cultures? And what do you want that culture to be in the future? And then the last one is, how do you organize the work? Does the organizational structure need to change? How are we supporting it? So I'm going through those very, very briefly, but unless you're looking at all 8, you're going to struggle with change adoption.
Well, and I have a question for you about success. Sorry, MVK. I'm going to jump in here real quick because one of the things you said was one of the points is around success. And the question that I asked you was around success. And then we've got a question from Flora in the audience. What's your secret sauce for driving lasting change? All of that has to do with that word kind of success, that long-term success. What does that look like? I think we all have to get on the same page as to what success actually means to us. I think we already feel like we know what it is, but until we sit down and actually figure it out, isn't that part of that what drives that lasting change?
Yeah. So what we talk to leaders about all the time is you have to set a vision for success, like a story around your success. It needs to be descriptive. A lot of the times, like we just helped a company, and it was make purchasing easy. Like that was their vision, make purchasing easy. But then what are the success metrics around it? Because people think 2 ways. Certain people love the story. Other people, especially procurement and finance people, were a little bit more analytic. We like the numbers. So we need to have both to say, okay, this is our true north of what we're trying to achieve. And then you put your plans and your designs all around that in those 8 different areas that I just mentioned. So MBK, you mentioned MGM earlier, right? Our success metrics are really clear. 100% PO backed, 100% e-invoicing, period. Like that's what we were trying to go after.
Yeah, no, and I think one of the things I wanted to just kind of echo is culture and how some people actually use it as an excuse not having to do it, right? They hide behind culture, right? They say, oh yeah, no, that's not part of our culture. And then if you break that down and say, well, what does it actually mean? Then everyone has a different perspective of what the culture really is. But I've seen firsthand in my past that people hide behind culture and use it as an excuse to not maybe drive a better outcome. So I just wanted to kind of stress that one. So that really resonated well. Hey, so one of the other things that I wanted to ask you is, and you kind of said, okay, well, here is roughly what are the ingredients, but what do a lot of people get wrong, or what do people get wrong when you think about digital transformation? Is my first question. I have a follow-on, but what do people get wrong about digital transformation?
Okay, and I'm going to be very specific about procurement because I think that's a lot of the audience is probably watching today. We see this all the time, is that the change becomes about procurement and not about the business. Okay, so, and it shows up in all kinds of nuanced ways. Like when we start talking about what's in it for them, it becomes what's in it for us. Or we go and we talk to a CFO and we say, this is going to make procurement better instead of it's going to make the CFO's life better. It shows up in training when we talk about all these weird acronyms that we have in procurement. And I'm like, does a salesperson who needs to order something really care? Right? Like they don't. So we need to make sure everything that we do is what is in it for the other person across the table. Like what value are we bringing and what language are we using to help support that? Because it's unbelievable when you start reading these communications and looking at different training documents that we do. And we're like, well, no wonder nobody followed along with your training because it was all about procurement. Like, wasn't about their life. It was about procurement life.
Yeah,
and
I was literally, sorry, spot on, Amanda. I mean, I was literally on a call with a prospective customer yesterday. And first of all, I was happy to see that there was a CIO, a CFO, the chief operating officer was there, the head of legal was there. So first, like the leaders, yeah. So that's already amazing. And the way that I explained to them what a successful deployment looks like is, I said, well, we have all the right players in the room, right? And there is something in it for each and every one of you. Closing your books at the end of the month, better financial reporting, more accurate data. That's what the CFO cares about. Legal, compliance. So it resonates super well. And I know we need to move on because I have other questions for you, but
That's okay. We're like trying to get through them all.
And I actually had that conversation last night at 9 p.m. So anyway, so maybe also what we also want to talk about is not just, hey, how amazing you are, and we all know that, and I know that firsthand, but what are some of the things that you've learned or lessons learned, and what did you mistakes you've made in the past, or I call them learning opportunities, but what can you share that you've done in the past that you say, yeah, I probably could have done better?
MVK, you call them learning opportunities. I call them dumpster fires, but whatever we want to call them. No, I think I'm actually writing my first book, and it's all about this topic.
Awesome.
A lot of leaders, probably all three of us on the call and those that are listening, we've been thrown in to lead change, but have never been trained on how to lead change. Mm-hmm. So my biggest aha moment when I left corporate, I was like, I was doing all kinds of things wrong when it came to change leadership. Like, for instance, I was the one in the room, and this I'll use SAP because it was an SAP implementation, but it was like it's gonna solve world hunger. And guess what happened, MBK? You know this, all of us know this. It didn't solve world hunger. It didn't solve everyone's problems. And so then what happened with the change? I'm a leader up in front of the room saying it's going to solve all your problems. And then people are like, no, it didn't. Or no, it's never going to do that. Mm-hmm. And so then I just created my own problems, right? Like that doesn't work well. So I created a methodology called ALICE. It's all about change leadership, because we need, as leaders, to have guidance around how to do this effectively. So not only we can support our teams, but we can support ourselves and preserve our own energy. Because man, I burnt myself out every 3 years because I was trying to do all of this and do a lot of it wrong. And it's tough work, and nobody deserves that, right? Your teams don't deserve it. You don't deserve it. Your families don't. So Alice, just real quick, act with authenticity, lead with love, inspire others, create community. MBK, you mentioned community earlier in your comments, and engage purposely. And if we can do those things effectively, you're going to be more effective at leading change. And that like the biggest learning that I had after all of those dumpster fires, if I can say it right.
I love that acronym. I mean, I'm not sure if we need more of those, but I do love it. And I love that it's called Alice. And I almost wonder if there's a way to put in a P there, because I want to put in protect your peace.
Oh, yes.
Right? Because I think you're right. I think when you are up in front of leadership or your teams and a technology implementation or digital transformation has not gone well or right or the way that you thought it was going to, how do you protect yourself? How do you protect your peace in that moment to be able to talk about and get through this with everybody? Because you shouldn't be an island. You're not on your own. And you should be surrounding yourself with people who can help lift you up and support those efforts and help you navigate through what that looks like to find a solution rather than pointing blame.
Yeah. And Alice is all about protecting your peace, whether you're creating your own problems that are going to create energy drain, or you could avoid problems. That's what she's all about.
I love that. MVK, did you want to add something real quick before I get to
I mean, again, like it also makes your project so much easier when you create allies instead of, potentially enemies, right? Because if people are not involved, then they're going to be on the sideline, and they are the first ones that when something goes wrong are going to point at it and say, you see, I told you so. And that's probably one thing that I could share of things that I've done wrong is, I was already like running like at 190 miles an hour. I've done 200 on a motorbike, so I love speed. and I was already like way back there. And then I looked behind me, and my team wasn't there, and there was actually no one there, and I was the only one that was actually up there.
Like,
And
yay, come.
and it's terrible. Yeah? It's terrible. It's not a good feeling when you feel like you're stuck on an island all by yourself. That's really not fun.
It's
No, and MBK, you would love this. We have little Coupa corners running around at all these businesses right now. It's our little way of creating community for buying teams, accounts payable teams. They get together, they talk about their questions, what they've learned, and we usually set it up during the implementation. But they live well beyond the implementation, well beyond when we're gone. That's just one little form of community that we're forming.
Nice. I love that. Well, we have to get to trivia because we are almost at the end of the show. But I have one last question for you, because obviously we want everybody to walk away with some actionable items. So if people in relationships are the foundation of any transformation, what is one practical step they can take away from this conversation? And if you're loving this conversation, put a fire emoji in the comments. We want to hear from you. Amanda, take it away.
One practical piece of advice, and I'm going to be very brief on this. Think about every communication as an opportunity for feedback. If you do that, people are going to be more heard, and they will come along with the change more effectively.
Awesome. I love that. That's such a great actionable takeaway. And Amanda, I really appreciate you for joining us today. And I love your acronym. Flora loves your acronym as well, and says that you need to go for that book. So we can't wait for your book, and maybe we'll have you back for that.
All right. Sounds good. Thank you.
Thanks, Amanda.
And I want.
All right, everyone, it is trivia time. Now, everybody get ready, because I know you want to win the pickleball set from Coupa. We've had a couple of winners already. We are hoping to get some pictures from them so you can actually see them in action with their pickleball sets. But we have a question for you. And the first person to answer this trivia question correctly in the comments is going to win this pickleball set. Are you into pickleball, MBK? I don't know if I've asked you this, but
I don't have it here in where I live. I think there's one court is always full, but I love it. I've played a few times. I think it's amazing. It's fabulous.
All right. So the question for everybody: how many categories or capabilities should you think about with any digital transformation project? MVK, do you want to give everybody a little bit of a hint?
Yeah, it's anywhere between 3 and 20.
All right. So I think we need some like music.
I think so. What I wanted to make sure that the audience knows is that Amanda is going to join us at Inspire. So if people are wanting to connect with her and meet her in person, I mean, she is coming in May, and I know you are there too, and so am I. So I just wanted to plug her. And of course, you can always reach her out on LinkedIn. And but yeah, I just wanted to plug that as well while we wait for the answer. Or
I think that is great. I think that is great. And yeah, we're going to be there. We're going to do a meet the host segment. We're going to be doing a little bit about on the margin, some fun stuff on site at Inspire. And Amanda's going to be speaking, so you can ask her more about the ALICE acronym, which I do love, and how you can protect your piece as a leader in this space. All right, so we've got quite a few answers here, and the correct answer is 8. So I think we do have a winner, and that is John Whitley. If you can message me with your details, I'm going to need your address so we can send you that pickleball set. Thank you so much to everybody who weighed in on the question this week. What else can we expect at Inspire, MBK?
Well, there's going to, of course, always be, we're going to talk about product. Our CEO, Lee, is going to be on stage. You're going to see the product team on stage. We're going to talk about AI. We're going to talk about the platform, latest innovations around supplier collaboration, and ultimately how we're going to build this autonomous commerce network. There's so much fun stuff. It's celebration. We'll see celebrating spend setters of the year. It's kind of the Oscars for procurement. So yeah, it's my favorite event, not as a Coupa employee, but as a practitioner. I've been there for probably 10 years now. well before I became an employee. It is, you have to experience it once. I mean, it is the buzz, the energy. It's going to be awesome.
I'm going to have to get out my Oscar outfit. Well, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. We've dropped some links in the comments, so please make sure to click those for more resources on digital transformation and change management. Join us next month for a conversation on attracting and retaining talent in procurement. MVK, thank you so much for joining me. A big thanks to Amanda and all of you guys, and we'll see you again next month. Bye.